What's up, guys? Welcome to the Second Take. I'm Zach. I'm doing this podcast by myself again. Jonah's on his way home to New York for Thanksgiving. I will be going home tomorrow, so I'm doing it quick here. And then we will be back to our normal podcast next week. So what I'm going to do is kind of the same thing as last week. Just give our NFL picks. And then last week I talked about college football briefly. This week I'm going to talk about college basketball. And again, just like another 10-15 minute show like last week. So I'm going to start with our NFL picks. Jonah definitely beat me last week. I don't know the exact numbers, but he's getting his lead back a little bit. So I'm trying to catch up here, and we got a bunch of good games this week. And Turkey Day kicks it off on Thursday. We have a big-time divisional matchup with the Vikings and Lions, both tied atop the NFC North, coming in at 6-4. This game's in Detroit. The first time Detroit's played a meaningful Thanksgiving game, I know since I've been born. I couldn't tell you how long after that. So that's a huge one. We're going to be picking that one. We're going to be picking Redskins-Cowboys, which is another big divisional matchup, and then some other good games later on. So first one we'll start on Thanksgiving with the Vikings and Lions. As I said, in Detroit, both 6-4. Vikings coming off a good win against the Cardinals, where they got two pretty big plays that put them over the top. A 104-yard kickoff return from Cordero Patterson and a 100-yard interception return from Xavier Rhodes, who's slowly becoming one of the best corners in the NFL. So two big plays that put them over the top. I don't think they win that game based on their offense alone. And I really like what I see from Matt Stafford and this Lions team this year. He's becoming, in my opinion, he's one of the top MVP candidates this year, because this team is not good. It shouldn't have been anywhere near the top of this division, and they pretty much are on their way to the playoffs, in my opinion. So I'm going to go with the Lions here. Jonah's going with the Vikings. So our first disagreement of many, as you'll see. But I think this is going to be a really good game. Good way to kick off Thanksgiving. Wake up to this 12:30 start. And as I said, the first meaningful Thanksgiving game in Detroit in a really long time. So look for this to be a pretty raucous crowd and an exciting game for Detroit. The next one we're going to go to is Cowboys-Redskins. This game's in Dallas. Dallas has won 9 in a row. After losing their opening game to the Giants, they've won 9 straight. Dak looks as good as ever. Zeke is still running really well. Offensive line's holding up. Dez is getting on a hot streak, and their defense is just hanging tough. So this is a big game here. The Redskins are sitting at 6-3-1. So a couple games back at Dallas. The Giants are at 7-3. So the Redskins need to keep winning. Dallas needs to keep winning. Giants need to keep winning, and we got a race on our hands for this division. I've always thought the NFC East was one of the best divisions. I know that the records generally don't tell that, but they beat up on each other. That's why the records don't ever show how good these teams truly are. And this year, finally, it is showing. So that's good to see. I'm going to go with the Redskins here. I really like what I saw from the Redskins against the Packers Sunday night. I think they really played extremely well. Offense looks like it's working a lot, and I think that they can cause enough problems for that Cowboys offense, and I think they're going to be fired up to play this game. So I'm going with the Redskins. Obviously, Jonah's going with the Cowboys. The spread is 7 here for Dallas. I think that's extremely high. I think 4.5 or somewhere in that area would be much better. I think this is going to be an extremely close game and hard fought. Whoever wins is putting themselves in really good playoff position. Dallas wins this game, they're pretty much locked up to have a really high seed, either the 1 or the 2 seed, I would say. And if the Redskins win, they're chasing the Giants and the Cowboys right now. And the Giants have the Browns this week, so hopefully that's a win. So say the Giants win that one, it puts them at 8-3. If the Cowboys win, they'd be 10-1. And now the Redskins are 6-4-1 if they lose. So big game for both teams here. The Cowboys can almost put the Redskins away, and the Redskins are going to be fighting for playoff hope here. The next game we're going to go to is the Raiders and Panthers. Raiders are coming off a huge win in Mexico against the Texans. Big fourth quarter, 14-point comeback to go up to win the game by 7. They didn't look very good. The Texans had their way with the Raiders for sure. made me second guess the Raiders a little bit. Not that they're not a good team. I think they're still a great team, but you can really disrupt the team. And if you have an offense, which the Texans don't, I think you can score on them. So the Panthers are a team that I think fits the mold of someone that can beat the Raiders. They have Cam Newton, who's obviously the reigning MVP, super good player. Kelvin Benjamin's really good. Jonathan Stewart's really good. So that's an offense that can score and can win. I know they haven't been winning a lot of games, but they're sitting right now 2 games back of their division lead. So they're in playoff mode already, trying to win every game is important for them. And the Raiders, I think at some point, they have to lose a game. They're not going to hit this stride and stay on this stride forever. So I pick this week as the week that the Raiders will get knocked off and then hop right back on the winning train again next week. So for that reason, I'm going with the Panthers. Like I said, I just think they have the recipe to beat the Raiders. And Jonah's going to go with the Raiders this week. So the last game before our upsets and lock, we're going to pick the Chiefs-Broncos Sunday night game. This is another huge game. Both teams 7-3. Both teams in wild card position right now in the AFC. Both teams 1 game back of the Raiders. This game is going to be played in Denver. This game is probably going to be the best game this week if I had to guess. Chiefs are coming off a bad loss to the Bucs. Broncos are coming off a decent showing. All teams that are in the playoff hunt so far, especially in the AFC, their defenses have really told the story, and the Broncos are no different. So this is a defensive matchup for sure. I think the first team to probably 17 points will win this game. Probably like 17-10 if I had to guess. And I'm going to give the edge to the Chiefs. I know they came off the loss like I just said, but I think they were kind of looking ahead. The Bucs are not that great of a team, and I don't think the Chiefs really cared to be in that game. So this is the game that they're definitely going to be up for. It's Sunday night, prime time. People are doubting them. They never think the Chiefs are that good. That defense is legit. I think Marcus Peters is going to hold his own, and the Chiefs are going to sneak one out. Jonah's going with the Broncos. So as you see, we just disagreed on all 4 picks right there. We are not going to disagree on our lock, though, which is the Patriots over the Jets. I hate picking divisional games for this, and I hate picking away teams for this, but I don't really see how you can go against the Patriots. Ryan Fitzpatrick starting again for the Jets. It's been a revolving door at quarterback for those guys. And they are the worst team in New York right now, which is saying a lot. Yeah, we both got the Patriots here. I don't know. I said last week the Seahawks were going to beat the Patriots, and sure enough, that's what happened. So the Seahawks beating the Patriots isn't that big of a deal because the Seahawks are probably the second best team in the NFL, if not the best. So I don't really mind that too much. I think the Patriots will get right back on track and win this one pretty easily. So that brings us to our upset. A lot of good upsets this week. A lot of teams that are underdogs that I think are the better team. I'll give you Jonah's pick first. He's going to Baltimore. He's going to pick the Cincinnati Bengals, who are 4.5-point underdogs to the Ravens. Ravens sitting at 5-5, tied atop the division with the Steelers, but have the head-to-head win. So they have technically they're leading the division right now. Bengals just lost A.J. Green and Giovanni Bernard, most likely both for the season. Definitely Bernard. A.J. Green has a tear in his hamstring, which could put him out until the end of the year. They're saying he might come back for like the last week of the season. Right now, that means they don't really have a great chance at the playoffs. So I don't really see why you'd rush him back. So that's a tough one. I think the Bengals could sneak that one out, but we'll see what happens. I'm gonna go with the Cardinals, another team that had like I just said, a pretty bad loss against the Vikings. Gave up a 100-yard interception return and a 104-yard kickoff return and ended up losing the game by 7, a game they should have absolutely won. So I am going to pick them to beat the Falcons. They're on the road in Atlanta, 4.5-point underdogs. But I still think the Cardinals are the better team there. I know I've been on the Cardinals bandwagon all year. The Cardinals are way better than their record is, and I think they're going to start to show that here now. So those are our NFL picks. A lot of disagreements here. Hopefully it leads to a big swing in the standings right now. But yeah, that's that. So now I'm going to get to NCAA basketball a little bit. So we have the first couple weeks of the season are done now. We've already had some notable losses. Duke lost to Kansas on my birthday. Thanks a lot. But I don't really care at all about it. It actually reassured me that Duke was going to win the title this year just because they don't have their three best players, and they pretty much they lost on a buzzer beater to Kansas. So like the fact they were even in that game shows me a lot. I think they're going to be a team you would rather play in the NBA come March Madness time. Another team that's really shocked me is Indiana, sitting at 3-0. They're up to number 3 in the standings. Beat Kansas the first game of the season and looked fantastic. Thomas Bryant is their big guy. He has developed a really nice jump shot now, shooting threes and shooting them well. To go along with it, just beastly presence in the post. James Blackman is back from a torn ACL and some other leg issues the last couple of years. He looks as good as he was advertised coming out of high school. So they lose Yogi Ferrell, but it doesn't even look like they lost anything. It looks like they're taking a step forward. Very dangerous team. Very dangerous team. OG Anunoby's developed a nice jump shot as well. So they look like a team I could definitely see going far in March. Villanova has had some tough tests so far against some pretty decent teams and have hung on. They're 5-0 now. UCF is a decent team they beat. Wake Forest is a decent team they beat. Then they beat Purdue at Purdue, which I think is a huge win for them. Purdue's going to be pretty decent this year, and to go at Purdue the second game of the year and beat them, that says a lot. So Villanova is another team I really like. And Kentucky's looked pretty good as well. A lot of people kind of always over-exaggerate how good Kentucky is. They smoked Michigan State, but like Michigan State is not what they've ever been this year. And then Kentucky doesn't really play anyone. UCLA they play, but it's at Kentucky, so you can't take a lot out of that game. And then they play UNC also, but again at Kentucky. So their first test on the road is going to come in late December against Louisville. But in the 2-week stretch, they're going to play UCLA, UNC, and Louisville, and I doubt they get out of that unscathed. So I don't think this Kentucky team is fantastic. However, I do think they're good enough to make a run in the tournament, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them win the title either, although I think Duke almost has it locked up right now. A team that's taking a big hit is Virginia. John and I talked a lot about Austin Nichols in the pre-season podcast. He has been dismissed from the team for player discipline reasons. That's a huge loss for them. That, in my mind, almost takes them entirely out of title conversation. I don't even think they have a chance to win the ACC without him. So that's a big hit. They're sitting at number 7 right now. I think they're going to start to lose some games in fall. UNC, another team like Kentucky, kind of unscathed. They're pretty good, but I think when they start to get tested, they are going to slip a little bit. Arizona's another team that I've liked. Creighton has skyrocketed up the rankings by beating Wisconsin, so they have a lot of scorers, really good offense. That could be a team that takes a while to lose just because their schedule is somewhat light. They don't play a ranked team until they play Villanova on December 31st. So really the only thing they have to worry about is conference play. They play Villanova and Xavier with Marquette and Georgetown thrown in, both, and Butler. So they could take some hits there, but I could see them going a while undefeated. And then Oregon has just beat Tennessee just barely today, or else they would have had 2 losses. But they have just gotten Dylan Brooks back, so I don't take anything that's happened so far up to this point. You have to take all of that with a grain of salt because he's their best player. They go as he goes, and they absolutely need him on the court in order to be successful. So don't worry about that loss too much, just like you wouldn't worry about Duke's too much. Kansas is a team I'm not a big fan of, and that's the same for Wisconsin. Wisconsin never turns the ball over, and this year they're turning it over a ton. They lost to Creighton, as I mentioned. They have to play Georgetown tonight, but they also have beaten Tennessee and then some other D2 schools. So they haven't really shown me anything that's impressive. Nigel Hayes is pretty good as advertised, but they haven't given me too much to really say, like, yeah, I love that team. So I would hold off on them for a while, wait and see kind of thing. And then two teams that I think are kind of surprising with just how dominant they've been, one of which is Baylor. Baylor's been playing extremely well. Beat Oregon, as I said. Sorry, Oregon has 2 losses now I think of it. So they beat Oregon pretty handily. It was at home, so whatever, but they almost beat them by 30. It was a 27-point victory. They play VCU coming up tomorrow, so that'll be somewhat of a test. They got Xavier on the schedule, so we'll get to know this team pretty quick, and then they have Big 12 play, obviously play some good teams. And then another team that I've been somewhat surprised with, I mean, they were expected to be good, and they've yet to play a big-time opponent, but they're handily beating these teams, is UCLA. Lonzo Ball is the real deal. He is extremely, extremely, extremely good. They have another freshman, TJ Leaf, that's also fantastic. Bryce Alford used to have to score like 35 a night in order to just keep them competitive. Now he's almost an afterthought in the offense. All their entire starting lineup averages over 10 points a game. They're all really good. I could see every one of these guys in the NBA. So that's a team to really look out for. Their schedule is somewhat light. I mentioned the game against Kentucky. They also have to play Michigan and Ohio State, and then Pac-12 play, so Oregon and Arizona. Washington could be okay this year. So, I mean, they don't have too much on the schedule, but this is going to be a really good team. I think come tournament time, they're going to get better as the day goes on. So that's pretty much it for just a quick rundown of how teams have looked so far, at least the important ones. I mentioned I didn't like Kansas too much. I'll just go into that quickly. I don't think Josh Jackson he's an NBA player for sure. I don't think he's a very good college player. He doesn't do much other than the fast break kind of stuff. He's basically what Andrew Wiggins was when Andrew Wiggins was a freshman at Kansas. So hopefully for him, that works out for him in the NBA, but he's not going to be the greatest college player in my opinion. He's a streaky shooter. He's a head case, and I just don't think he's that great. With that being said, Frank Mason and Devontae Graham is the best backcourt in college basketball, no questions asked. Frank Mason is an absolute beast. He finishes over anyone and everyone. He knows when he needs to take over. He knows how to win games. Devontae Graham was their best player in the NCAA tournament last year and probably all of March. And he's just chugging along right now, following Frank Mason's lead. But whenever they need him, he's going to step up huge as well. And I talked about Carl Bragg in the preseason show, but I think he's an absolute superstar with Sav Mikhailuk. So they have players, but I don't think this is a team that can go very far in March, just because if you can bother their guards, you beat them easily. So that's a team I think will get to like the Sweet 16 and probably take an upset. So just to end, I'm going to give you 4 teams I think are absolute locks. Well, I'll give you 2 teams I think that are locks for the Final Four, and 2 teams I think will also make it that aren't so much of a lock, but still pretty confident. So the 2 teams I think are locks is Duke. I think Duke's going to win it all. I could fill out my bracket right now and submit it for whatever you want. I have no doubt in my mind they can win it all, and they should win it all in my opinion. And the other team is Indiana. That might be surprising, but the way that they defend, the way that they score, the size that they have, they check all the boxes of what you need in order to be a good tournament team and make a run. So those are the 2 teams I am fully expecting to make the Final Four. The 2 teams I think that will make it, but I'm not sold on yet, are Kentucky. I'm not sold on them yet because I don't think they have the shooting Malik Monk has been making 5-6 threes a game. However, he's not the best shooter. He's just on a hot streak. So if he ever goes cold, they have nothing behind him to shoot, and that could hurt them big time in March. Luckily, they have the athletes and the people that can attack the rim so that it can kind of offset that. But if they ever catch a hot shooting team and they're cold, it could be a problem. And then the other team is Villanova. I fully expect them to make the Final Four. However, when I was watching them play UCF, UCF has a guy named Taco Fall that's 7'6". I highly suggest watching them play once because they are fun to watch. He's fun to watch, and they're actually not that bad. I think they'll make the tournament. But I know he's 7'6", but like Villanova even struggled to rebound without him on the court against a normal-sized UCF lineup. Their big guys are pretty much Chris Jenkins and then a slew of other guys that kind of just rotate in. So they don't really have anyone bigger than 6'7". However, Josh Hart is a willing rebounder. He's a really good rebounder. He's probably the best rebounding guard in college basketball. Jalen Brunson will go get you a rebound too. So they have really athletic guards that can rebound. They just don't have the size that they're going to need, I think, when it comes to March. Like if they ever had to play an Indiana team, Thomas Bryant would eat him alive. So if they run into a big team, they're going to have big time problems because they can't rebound that well. So that's the only reason I don't have them as a lock. If they had Daniel Ochefu still from last year, I would absolutely say they're a lock to make the Final Four, and probably other than Duke would have the best shot to win it all, just because Josh Hart and Chris Jenkins are that good, and they have so many more players other than that: Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, the list goes on. So those are the teams to really pay attention to here. And then if I was to give you an off-the-radar team to watch, I would say to watch out for Cal. Ivan Rabb is extremely talented and very gifted. He's gonna make that team competitive. The question is, will they have the scoring behind him, which I don't know that they have yet. So that's somewhat scary to think about. But if they do find shooting and a willing ball guard, it will be very good. And one more team is USC. They're not going to be ranked, I don't think, throughout the year, but Jordan McLaughlin is one of my favorite players, the point guard. If you watched him in the tournament last year, you saw why I just said that. But just pay attention to him, too. And then, other than that, we'll get into college basketball more as the year goes along. Obviously, we're still in the preseason tournaments and everything, so teams are just getting going. But conference play will be starting up in a couple weeks here, so that'll be a lot of fun to watch. And NFL is winding down and getting really good, so stay tuned to everything. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week with Jonah and have a regular podcast, and we'll see what happens after that. So happy Thanksgiving, and watch some football. Go Giants.